It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. This round is MotoAmerica Superbikes at Ridge Motorsports Park from Shelton, Washington. Our fourth of 9 for 2023 from Ridge Motorsports Park. And it's time for Supersport race number 2. And it promises to be an exciting one. Welcome everyone to the broadcast. My name's Greg White, and I'm standing next to Jason Pridmore, who's won 2 world championships in his illustrious career on a motorcycle. But Jason, let's talk about Xavi Forés. I mean, he keeps resetting the record books. He's now the first rider in history in Supersport to win 6 in a row in his first go at it and everything else, and it was a pretty phenomenal day for him yesterday.
Yeah, it was dominant yesterday, and even this morning in warm-up, he went even quicker this morning and was on an even faster lap before he got held up in the third sector this morning. But this is all the field saw of him yesterday, Greg. He already had 10 bike length lead by the time they got down to that chicane, and he would slowly just pull away and get away from everybody. You see Josh Hayes here. He snuck up the inside of Ty Scott, thinking that maybe he had a chance to try to run down that Ducati at Xavi Forés. He wasn't able to. Mesa also was able to go by Scott, and as well as his teammate, Teague Hobbs, does the same thing. Goes past Ty Scott into the chicane. Later in the race, Teague Hobbs closed up to the back of both Josh Hayes and Mesa. Took a couple shots, but Mesa ultimately had this huge crash, Greg. He'll be on a brand new bike today, for obvious reasons. That bike was pretty well destroyed yesterday for Mesa, but Xavi Forés out front. This was, I mean, he didn't have anybody behind him. He won this race, and I don't really see anything obviously changing today, Greg. The bike and him just seem to gel well, really, at this place. Josh Hayes second, and Teague Hobbs gets his first Supersport podium of the year.
So Xavi Forés, you can see the first rider to win the first 6 races in his MotoAmerica career. But as we take a look at Suzuki inside the numbers, let's focus on Teague Hobbs. It is his freshman season in Supersport.
It is, and if you look at what he has done here, the consistency, those first 4 races that we had there in Atlanta and then Road America and Barber, coming to the 4th round here at the Ridge, to see that 3rd is not really a surprise. And I think the DNF he had was a mechanical. That was no mistake of his own. And let's keep in mind, he showed a lot of promise at Daytona at the beginning of the year in our Daytona 200 as well. So for Teague Hobbs, so far, getting with a good team like he has, you're seeing the progression that he's making.
So his first podium in Supersport. He's had a dozen in Twins Cup, but now he's there. And of course, after the race, he got to speak to Hannah about his race result.
I was just having fun out there. I knew 15 laps was going to take a little bit of time, and I think I chose the right tire for the race. And in the first 3-4 laps, I got held up a little bit. But towards the end, I started just trying to put my head down, hit my marks, try to catch Josh and Stefano. Hopefully Stefano's all right. And then when Stefano crashed half a lap to go, that was kind of like my sign, okay, maybe just relax, bring it home.
The future's bright for this 20-year-old, but the bikes are on the grid, which means the 3rd member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopez, down there, and she's on the grid with more stories. Hey, Hannah.
Greg, Tyler Scott with a front row start this weekend. 2 podium appearances so far this season and consistently within that top 5. Tyler, what's it going to take to get another podium appearance here today?
Yeah, we need to start the race off by getting a good start in turn 1 and just be consistent, have the lap times consistent. Yesterday we started off a little bit slower, then the lap times came later in the race, but unfortunately it was too late. So today we're going to try to keep a good pace right off the start.
Sounds like a good plan. Best of luck to Tyler Scott. As I make my way down the grid here, one rider we'd love to showcase this weekend. It's his home track, Andy DeBrino, with his first Supersport appearance of the season and a 6th place finish right out the gate. Andy, what needs to be done in order to better that position today?
Well, we're going to try to get another good start. Yesterday I got a good start and was tucked in behind Hayes there, and, you know, definitely was soaking it all in, learning as much as I can, and that was the first time we've gone more than 8 laps. So, you know, the last end of the race, you know, we had some struggles, so we made some changes. So hopefully today we can learn from that and put our setup changes to use and get a better result.
Andy DeBrino looking to break into that top 5. Certainly a lot of laps around this place, and especially this weekend running both the Super Hooligans class and Supersport.
Yeah, and of course, 7 weeks ago, he had a concussion actually from racing, Jason, so his fitness is a little bit suffering as well, and that's also an issue here at Ridge Motorsports Park because this racetrack is super physical.
Very physical. You don't get a lot of time to really get any rest here, Craig, especially with the up and downs. Off the start into that chicane, turn 1, 2, and 3 are really tricky corners. That's where we saw Teague Hobbs trying to make that pass on Mesa. Then you go through a big long turn 6, long left-hander in the infield there. Turns 7 and 8 have proved to be problematic for a lot of riders. Steep downhill grade where you're going off throttle onto the brakes. up the hill, turn 11's tight, 12's tight. Then we get into the last section of this track, turns 13, 14, and then 15, where we saw Josh Hayes go up underneath Ty Scott yesterday, and then that run back down onto the front straightaway. Fun place.
Really fun place and great for race action. But this rider right here, number 12, looking for a little bit of history to tie Garrett Gerloff in race wins in a row. And Josh Hayes trying to put a stop to it.
Yeah, when we were on Coffee with Creamer and Hayes and we were talking about exactly that point, Josh said with a grin, I don't like it one bit. But then he was very open and honest, and he said, right now, Chavi, he said, the feel he has, Roger, on the front of that bike is allowing him to do some absolutely superb things. That's what everybody's dealing with right here, I think.
And not only that, his confidence is continuing to grow. We talk about tires all the time in this sport. This is his first year on the Dunlops. And it just seems like each race weekend, each time on that bike, he just gets a little bit stronger, a little bit better on the, getting the confidence in the tires. And that's just letting him, we see how good he is on the brakes, how fast he can go in the corner. And that's just because he just trusts that front tire now. And it's getting, and that's the scary thing for everybody else. They know he's getting more used to the tires. And for him, I mean, he's just been on fire this week. A lot of times so far this year, we've never really seen him dominate practice and qualifying like he has here, and still win the races. So I think everybody knew going into that race what they're going to have to do. And we talk about it all the time in a lot of these races. Don't let someone get out front early and get into their rhythm. That goes for Chavi today. Do not let him get out in front. He gets really good starts, but if he gets out front and gets in his rhythm really early, we seen yesterday he was able to pull away pretty quick.
Well, and that's key, isn't it? Is one of these guys, one of the two M4X Star bikes, Scott or Hobbs or Jake from his 4-spot, somebody has got to get the jump and park Chavi into that chicane and then see what unfolds from there. But to me, one of the really telling stories was when I talked to Chavi after he blew away everybody in Saturday morning qualifying, and I chatted with him before that session, and he said after he qualified third in the heat of Friday afternoon, he said, I never changed tires. I was on the same tire, and I was just working on race setups, and he qualified third. That to me was like, uh-oh.
And we were watching that, doing that qualifying together, and we were both thinking, man, he didn't go any faster at the end of the session, and thought maybe he didn't change tires. But, like you said, somebody off the start, is going to have to be aggressive. Lean on him, get aggressive, run him a little bit wide, keep it clean, but just don't let him try to get in that rhythm. And that's hard to do because he's a good rider and he has a lot of experience, and he knows that's what is coming. Yeah. So he's looking for it.
And he's good off the line too. So it's a big challenge when we could talk all day about what you have to do to maybe put the brakes on Chavi just a little bit, but it's always much more difficult it is to do it than it is just to chat about it. So we'll see if anybody's up to the task here in just a couple of minutes as second race of this weekend at the Ridge for Supersport is about to start.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series, and by Geico Motorcycle. Visit geico.com to see how easy covering your ride can be.
Back in Shelton, Washington at Ridge Motorsports Park. Here's a starting grid for our Supersport race number 2. Chavi Flores on pole.
Then we got Ty Scott and Teague Hobbs. Jake Lewis looking to improve on yesterday. Josh Hayes. And we saw Andrew DeBrino there on that MV Agusta. Mesa on a brand new bike. Anthony Kolstad. Michael Gilbert. Mazziata, who's been under the weather, Greg. CJ LaRoche. So Mazziata hoping to feel a little better today. Said today did feel better. Nassani, Soltis, Thermiotis, Mallory Dobbs, Owen Williams, and Damian Jigalov. And then in the final row here, we're going to see Zaragoza, Van Rossmalen, and Justin Bamer.
All right, so the key to this whole thing, Jason, is somebody's got to put a wheel in front of Chavi Flores and try to control the pace.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I think that when you use the word rough him up. I mean, this guy has seen everything, so Chavi Flores isn't going to get roughed up. And I think that the guys around him respect him so much. But if somebody can beat him down to turn one and at least make it a little bit of work for him, I think that's what they need to do. I know that's what Josh Hayes is thinking about right now, but Forés yesterday, Greg, the jump that he had on the field was so incredible, wasn't it? I mean, just off the bat, he's getting that thing off the line well, and it runs great around this place.
So we'll see how it goes for Xavi Forés and his Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati Panigale V2. That, of course, next-gen bike that's helped controlled by the electronics set here in MotoAmerica Tech. Of course, flanked by a couple of Vision Wheel M4 XR Suzuki GSXR 750s. All right, so let's see what we got going on. 15 laps scheduled for Supersport race number 2 here at Ridge Motorsports Park. When these red lights go on and off, we're racing. It looked like a little bit of movement from Hayes up top.
Just a little bit, didn't it? I mean, he wants to. What he's trying to do is get himself into that mix right off the bat. Forrest doesn't have as big of a jump as he did yesterday.
No, but it's
still the same guy leading, isn't it?
So Xavi Forés, the number 12, leads the way. The Spaniard having his way early on and already starting to eke out a lead. But there, the Vision Wheel M4 XR Suzuki's going with him. Looks like Ty Scott.
Yep.
And you can kind of tell from the different riding positions of the teammates. So Josh Hayes on the Squid Hunter Racing Yamaha R6, one of the older generation bikes in the field, racing against these next-gen machines.
Josh just trying to get to the front right now. He's trying very hard to get by Teague Hobbs. They go around the outside of turn 6 there. Wasn't able to make that. You can see Mesa is just behind Debrino there. So Mesa is also, I know he had a little bit of a warm-up this morning. But again, when you have the incident that he had yesterday, probably feeling a little bit beat up and is on a new bike as well.
Talking to Debrino, Jason, about the MV Agusta, which is the bike 5th in the picture, the red and white machine, new to him in this series this year. I asked him when he does club races up here how many laps they normally do, and he said 8 laps. So after 8 laps yesterday, they were in unknown territory with the tires, and so they changed from an R3 rear to an R5 rear, hoping to get a little bit more life out of the Dunlop for the MV, because it's all unknown territory with this brand new motorcycle.
Yeah, and looking at our Dunlop sheet that we get from the guys down there on the grid, I definitely saw there was some changes there as far as the R3s to the R5s, Greg. So there's a few riders that have opted for that R5 combination today on the rear of the bike. So Debrino doing a great job so far keeping those guys in check. 0.6 of a second. I think yesterday Xavi had a 1 second or maybe more lead at the beginning. Talking to Ty Scott this morning, and I've talked to a number of the guys on the GSXR 750s. They're still having some problems with those bikes in the sense that, and I'm talking across the board through everybody in our class. Just with some of the shifting problems, some of the electronics issues. We know that there was plenty of that last year, and they're definitely getting it sorted. Ty Scott had a little bit of air of confidence this morning. He said, when I talked to him at the rider autograph signings, that he said, Jay, I went faster this morning. I felt more comfortable. We got some of the things that we had some problems yesterday. We got a couple of those sorted, so that's important. As you see Hayes here, he goes up underneath Teague Hobbs. Josh told me straight up, he said, Jason, the only way that I can get by guys is to carve the inside. He's like, it's such a weird way to pass because when you got that guy to the outside, Greg, what are you expecting him to do? Come down on you. And but Hayes has great roll speed through the middle of those turns. Hannah?
So far in this race, Xavi Forés with over a half a second lead on the field, Hannah.
And he's making it look easy, Greg. When I talked to him, he said he really likes this track and the Ducati works really well here. And he's a very gracious winner, 6 in a row so far. He's looking to make it number 7 today and tie Garrett Gerloff for the most Supersport victories in a row within a single season. He's definitely on track to do that. But when I asked him, what's working so well for you? He said, the bike just really seems to work well at this track, and I think that it's going to be pretty hard for my competitors to catch up with me. He did go even faster in this morning's warm-up than he's gone all weekend. So he's definitely on pace to set that record.
Yeah, and early on in this race, he's already gone fastest Sector 1, Sector 2 here, working lap number 2, Jay. And he comes across the line. It's going to be a 43.596 for your leader, Xavi Forés, a 44.4 for Ty Scott. Hayes goes 44 flat.
Yeah, so 43.5 this morning, Greg, when I showed up. And I came into the booth. I was watching some of the live timing and things during the warm-up session for this class. As you see, Mesa has now slid up underneath Andy Debrino there. So Mesa's trying to sort the bike out as he goes and get a feel and try to move himself forward. But getting back to the point, he went 43.1 this morning. And in the next 2 sectors after that, he was red. So he was on pace to actually go even faster. So I wouldn't be surprised if 42s can be had here out of Xavi Forés. And Greg's going to the notebook, so I know what that means. And looking up some times as far as what lap records and things. I think that Sean Dillon Kelly went 42.9 here. You told me a day or so ago, 42.9, I believe.
Qualifying 42.7.
Okay.
Rocco Landers last year in Supersport. 43.8 was Richie Escalante's record before we got here, so 43.5. So a new race record for Xavi Forés in terms of that time. And of course, Forés went sector 1 the last time by.
And you're going to see Teague Hobbs is kind of squaring this long left-hander up, and Josh is just going to carve around the inside and just was able to slide this bike up underneath Teague. Now, Teague also told me today, he says it's funny. He said the more the race goes on, the better the bike gets for him, in the sense that as the tire gets a little worse, he goes faster. He feels like he can use the rear of the bike to turn the motorcycle a little bit more. So even though you see Teague just kind of sliding backwards a little bit right now, don't be surprised here in the next few, 3, 4, 5 laps if he starts to go back after these guys, because there was a point yesterday where he was almost a second quicker than Mesa and Hayes as he tried to reel them back in.
Yeah, and also speaking with Teague Hobbs today, he mentioned that it was really the first 4 to 5 laps where he wasn't as aggressive yesterday as he wanted to be. But he's also trying to balance that out with making sure that he does finish these races, Jay, because he knows that he's making an impression as a young rider in Supersport, and he's looking towards his future.
Yeah.
And I did ask him, I said, do you want to go to Superbike? And he said, you know what, right now, this Teague Hobbs I'm talking about, said, I'm really comfortable racing in Supersport for the next couple of years. I have so much to learn. That's what he told me, Hannah.
And Greg, he told me some of the same. He said he really needs to work on being strong early on in these laps. And yesterday, getting his first podium of his career in this class was very confidence boosting for him. He is super comfortable on the bike. And I asked him, how far out of sight is a victory? And he said he really wants to win. Of course, every racer does. But right now, he's got his sights set on being a consistent podium finisher. And he said rather than chasing down Xavi, he wants to chase down Josh Hayes.
And Jay, that's a really good strategy. Just look at the person in front of you, directly in front of you, right? Like that's the most important bit.
Yeah, well, that's all you can really do at that point anyways. You get a great aerial view from our drone camera that we have flying high above the ridge here. As you see, I'm not liking what I'm seeing. It looks like Josh Hayes is going down my board. So we're hearing that we heard that Josh may have fallen, and he did. It looks like maybe turn 11, Greg. That would be the exit of turn 11. I saw him going down our board while we had our drone shot going there. So Josh Hayes is tipped off, got back up and got going again.
That, of course, was a couple corners from that downhill run we call the waterfall, which is turn 13 and 14. So Josh at turn 11 is back up and running, but that's also going to move Teague Hobbs into a podium position.
Yeah, it's moving him into a podium. Let's see if we can see something off into the background here. You see Jake Lewis, but Josh Hayes should be on our right-hand side of our screen here any minute now. We just didn't see it. Yeah, you see the dust. So all that dust, that's Josh falling over.
That was kind of late too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was late, real late in the turn. So
what I mean by that is when you're braking into the corner, there's often an opportunity to low side the front end of the motorcycle. Generally, when you get to the apex and you transition to the throttle, we don't see crashes in the low side area as late in the corner.
Yeah, as late. So looking at this now, though, Jake Lewis, he's moved past Debrino, and he's caught the back of Hobbs and Mesa. As you get a look here of Josh Hayes taking a look at his bike. Was he second in points coming into this race?
He was third in points.
Third in points coming in for
behind
Josh.
Mesa.
This is a mistake you just don't see very often out of Josh Hayes. I mean, he just doesn't fall over in races.
The other mistake that we saw, which now is relatively irrelevant, is the fact that he had a 5-second jump start penalty. So we did see Josh move, and we see on our timing and scoring screens that had he continued on, he would have had that 5-second penalty. So Xavi Forés leads 2.4 over Ty Scott. Teague Hobbs in third. Mesa, Jake Lewis, the 85, in fifth place, and David Anthony in sixth as Debrino slides back to seventh. So yeah, Jay, yesterday, a 43.819 was the fastest lap for Xavi Forés, and that 43.819 was the new race lap record here for Supersport at Ridge Motorsports Park. That's been better to 143.596, and Xavi Forés seems to have settled into a really comfortable pace. low 44s and high 43s.
But I'll say Ty Scott's kind of keeping him honest a little bit. It's only 2.8 seconds, and I know it sounds like a lot, but yesterday that margin was opening up quite a bit. So I know it's a little bit of a combination. I know Xavi's doing his normal thing. He said yesterday in his interview in the winner's circle there that he still felt like there was a couple things he needed to change on the bike to make it a little bit better in the front end. And I think this morning they made those changes. It was a little cooler temperatures this morning, even though it was absolutely perfect for their warm-up. But I'm seeing that he's only really gaining 2/10, 3/10, although this lap right now, he's gained almost a full half second in that first sector. So maybe he wasn't liking the fact that he was pulling away so slowly, and he's dropping the hammer again right now. Hannah?
I just touched base with Josh Hayes to see what happened since the cameras didn't really get a good look, and he said it was just a very simple low side, just tuck the front. That's a turn that he's had to take a lot of risk in all weekend long, and it caught him out.
Yeah, and that's what happens, I think, with the acceleration of his R6 versus some of these next-gen bikes. He's looking for more roll speed and corner speed. But back to the battle for third we go. Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki's. Teague Hobbs leading the way over Tyler Cycles, Stefano Mesa. And there's Jake Lewis on the Disrupt Racing machine. But all of a sudden now, we've got a new player in there. The 52 of David Anthony on the Wrench Motorcycles machine. And David Anthony, there he is, Jay. Number 52, looking good.
So David Anthony's come up and he's basically said, I couldn't get everything out of that Attack Superbike that I felt like I needed to get out of it. So he's put Bobby Fong on the bike this weekend. Nick Seiling, if you remember, was riding for this team at, I believe, Atlanta and Barber. And then they got a 750 that Nick ended up riding. Actually, Nick only rode at Barber, and then at MotoAmerica got on the 750. Well, they purchased this bike. So Dave Anthony thought, well, I'm going to throw my leg over it. And now he's got a Podium staring him right in the face with these guys in front. First weekend for Dave Anthony on this bike. He's been riding for a long time, Greg. And, I know he still loves it. He puts a great team together every year. He's a mainstay here in the MotoAmerica paddock, and we've seen him in other classes. We've seen him in Supersport before, and so here for him to jump on this bike, first time Friday morning, and he's chipped away at it, and now he's got an opportunity to maybe get this bike up on the podium with these three guys right in front of him if he can start maneuvering his way past.
Originally from Australia, now resides in California, does a lot of time at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway in the winter months, so you get to see him a lot, and man, he puts in some serious fast lap times at that racetrack.
No, he does. He's at Chuckwalla every month, and for the championship out there during the off season, and he's obviously very, very talented.
Jake Lewis on the Disrupt Racing GSX-R 750, getting after it, also looking at a podium, Hannah.
He is, Greg, and Dave's definitely a versatile rider. He's got experience on a lot of different bikes, but so does Jake Lewis, and it's only his second weekend out on this bike with this team, and he said he feels like he can battle for a podium. He told me yesterday, and he said once again today. He's still getting to know the team and this new bike, but it's definitely a lot easier with a weekend under their belt like Road America. He had a better idea of what to expect, and after yesterday, getting some valuable seat time, some valuable laps, and a 5th place finish, he's looking to build on that today.
And I loved your interview with him yesterday, Hannah, when we talked to him after the race, and he put it on himself. He's like, hey, it's on me. Like, the bike is good. We can make some tweaks and changes, but that's not why I finished where I finished. He was riding a bagger solely this year. That's all he was going to ride, Greg. And then with the unfortunate exit of Corey Ventura, we saw Corey get hurt at Barber, so we're wishing him well. But Jake Lewis jumps on that Disrupt Racing GSX-R 750, and all of a sudden he's racing against guys, again, that are a lot smaller than him. And he's like, I got to start losing some weight again. I got to start getting in better shape. And he kind of had the bagger life going, I think, Greg, at the beginning of the year. And now he's found himself in our second biggest championship here in Supersport. And he's another guy that will be battling for podiums all the way through the end of the year. Teague Hobbs starting to gap these guys a little bit, though, isn't he?
He certainly is. So Teague Hobbs now kind of eking out a couple seconds over Mesa, actually about a second if you look at it, but it's been this lap where it's really started to break him. There's your race leader, Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati's Xavi Flores on that Ducati V2, and you can hear the rumble of that V-twin motor coming off the corner versus this inline 4-cylinder GSX-R 750. The Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki to Ty Scott, who has an uncharacteristic look over his shoulder. And now Teague Hobbs starting to eke away from this battle on, Jason, what you called a brand new Kawasaki ZX6R from Tytler Cycles for Stefano Mesa after he yard sailed his bike late in the race yesterday. I believe reports were he broke the frame into a couple pieces.
That's what I heard. Yeah, I heard the same. So that team's done a nice job overnight of putting a motorcycle underneath that Stefano can come and get underneath him. He can come and get some points for his championship.
Mesa still second in the points right now, Hannah.
He is second in the points right now, Greg, and he's trying to keep Jake Lewis at bay here. When I spoke with him this morning, he did tell me that bike was broken in half, and he got the B bike out this morning, only about 10 laps on that bike total, so still trying to shake it down and figure out how it's going to go race distance. I had a really funny conversation with him and Josh Hayes this morning about how, you know, they kind of almost feel like the underdogs in this class because they're on that previous generation motorcycle as Jake Lewis makes a pass on Mesa. You know, so I thought that was funny because they have so much experience compared to people like Xavi Flores, who's never been here, or the young riders like Tyler Scott and Teague Hobbs. So that was definitely an interesting perspective.
Now, Jason, when you look at it, let's talk about A and B bikes. So here in MotoAmerica, we have a one-bike rule, but you're allowed to have a second bike ready to roll. It just doesn't go through tech inspection. So they have to declare the first bike unfit to ride, and they go get it. But, Jay, A and B bikes, I mean, it's just a Kawasaki ZX6R, right? Like, it's exactly the same, right?
Not really. I mean, I think that when you talk to any rider, there's, as you can see, Dave Anthony's just hounding the back of Mesa now. Any rider will tell you that even, you know, you get that A bike and you do a lot of work on them, you try to get them as good as they can, and then no matter what, the B bike always doesn't quite feel as good as Dave Anthony slides his GSX-R 750 up the inside of Mesa. Mesa looks back over and he realizes there's nobody back there. It's usually a tell for me as a rider that when a rider looks back, they're kind of struggling maybe a little bit. See if Mesa puts his head down. We know what a gamer he is, but it kind of lets me know that maybe he's just going to settle in and get the points and get out of here with that 5th place finish, do the best he can at Laguna Seca moving forward as we go into our second long race of the year.
Oh yeah, extended race coming up
at Laguna. So remember, Mesa's never been here before this week, so all new to him. But yeah, that B bike, Greg, never quite feels the same. You gotta spend a day or so on it to get it like your A bike would normally be.
5.5 laps to go in Supersport race number 2 here at Ridge Motorsports Park in Shelton, Washington. Our eyes are on the 37, Stefano Mesa, on the Tytler Cycles Kawasaki ZX6R. He's circulating right now in 6th spot after David Anthony on the 52. Wrench Motorcycles GSX-R 750 got around him. Up the road a piece is Jake Lewis on the Disrupt Racing Suzuki. And then Teague Hobbs, Tyler Scott are 3 and 2 on that Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki. And then this guy, Xavi Flores. Xavi Flores, Jason, is, I mean, next level. You can't just say it's all the motorcycle by any stretch of the imagination. This Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati is just dialed in right now. But Jason, you had a long look at him on Friday.
Yeah.
Tell me what you saw in the upper section, the ridge part of this course.
Well, this is the last section here. The thing is, Greg, is that a lot of these bikes, especially with our new rules and our new gen bikes, there's so much differences between each one of the bikes. They all have their good characteristics, their bad characteristics compared to each other. And one of the things I noticed with Xavi is when he gets up into turn 11 and, you know, he back shifts it all the way down, and then he has a quick upshift and a quick downshift, and, you know, he's shifting quite a bit on this motorcycle, but he's making it work and it's seamless, and the bike just looks like it was fit and made for the ridge. We're gonna just slide back here, look at Ty Scott. Ty Scott goes 44-1 this last, or 45-1 the last time by. At least he's not losing as much as these guys were losing yesterday. Ty Scott is 6.3 seconds back now. So his 45-1 compared to 44.5. I mean, just a few laps ago, Xavi jumped back into the 43s when I said that he wasn't quite getting away as fast as he would have liked. He dropped himself back into those 43s, and now he's just at the 45s. Teague Hobbs actually right now and Jake Lewis, they're both into the 44s, as is Dave Anthony. So that battle for third is going to rage on. Teague Hobbs, though, is about 2 seconds up the road from Jake. So good look here at Ty Scott, rounding out of turn 8. This is going to be wide open. He actually clicks it up to 5th gear as he comes up over the top of that ridge. And
there's his teammate.
Yeah, Teague Hobbs here. He's probably doing the same thing. These guys end up going back down to 2nd gear for this one, Greg.
Teague Hobbs out of New Hampshire. serious about his racecraft, Jay. He showed up at Daytona 168 pounds and got on the program and has been absolutely laser focused. He's down to 150 pounds, the 20-year-old is. Enjoying life, enjoying what he's got going on. Crazy story. His family, when he was 15, they moved to Florida. He moved out of his childhood home, and he found himself years later out of high school, moving back to New Hampshire. He called the person who bought his parents' home and asked him if he could rent a room, and that's where he lives now. So he's living at his childhood home.
Wow.
He rents a room from a guy who's an ex-trainer, fitness trainer, so they eat healthy. He motivates them. Additionally, at his house, Jay, he's got all the tracks he rode when he was a kid to get him in the position he's in now. And he says when he gets up in the morning, goes to the gym 2 hours, gets everything done, and then he doesn't stop. He plays hockey. He goes and plays lacrosse, like whatever he can with his friends in fitness that are home. Of course, his friends are college age, right? So he's got 2 of his buddies that are home from college during the summer, and one of them's in EMT, and the 4 of them hang out and just enjoy the summer together, all the while getting the fitness.
That's great.
Yeah, it's something Jake Lewis needs, admittedly. He's got to drop a few LBs.
You say this stuff, and I can't believe these guys don't just punch you.
He's the one who came up to me, kind of grabbing his belly, saying, look, man, I got to get on it. And, you know, for Jake, he knows what's at stake here, and he's getting serious about it. And when he gets home,
and we've seen him do it before. You know, it's
and the talent level for this rider.
I think for Jake is, I think, you know, as a lot of these guys, when they don't have a ride, and this guy deserves a ride no matter what. And you know, they have that off season and they just do their thing. And it's winter time and all that. Oh, Dave Anthony just slid off right behind him. Ah, what a bummer. So Dave Anthony
having a great run in fifth.
He's doing so good.
So the 52 is down on his Wrench Motorcycles, but I don't know, Jay. I mean, the takeaway for David Anthony is I think he might have found a home on a Supersport machine.
Yeah. And we've actually seen him riding for the M14 before. So on that Suzuki. So on a Suzuki, not this one, obviously, but just a bummer. Same exact place that Josh Hayes did it. Probably the exact same type of crash, too, where you trail brake off in there and you just go to pick the throttle up and it just unweights that front end enough where it tucks up underneath you. So that's going to, I mean, again, that's going to kind of promote everybody up. That's going to put Mason now into the top 5. 3 laps to go here. 6.7 second lead for this guy.
And Jay, the scariest thing about Xavi Flores is he continues to march his way towards the checkered flag and get that 7th race win in a row, is we're going back to a track that he's been to before and that he loves.
Yeah.
Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca, coming up in a couple weeks.
Freshly repaved Laguna Seca, so it's going to be fun to see, you know, see where the lap records and things start to fall there. But this is kind of the section I was talking about earlier. He's going to come out of here, grab a gear out of this turn, and then he grabs actually 2. And he's going to backshift all the way through the gearbox for this next tight left. And this generally is a pretty tough area for a lot of people. Then he'll do a quick upshift out of here. And if you're out there and you watch it, it's such a short little area, but he upshifts and backshifts right away. So he's got this bike geared away where he can take advantage of the torque, and he can also take advantage of the bike being able to roll through the middle of the corner nicely. And, you know, look how smooth he is as well. I haven't seen the guy put a wheel wrong. Don't want to do the commentator's curse thing, but he has not put a wheel wrong this whole weekend.
Again, Xavi Flores came here at 16 years old and went to Road Atlanta and was looking for a ride and almost had one with the Jordan team. And then just kind of the way things unfolded, it was off to World Supersport for him all those years ago. And now Xavi Flores living the dream, wanting to race in the United States. And now, as we heard, he's looking to put a stamp in the Supersport Championship and try to get himself onto the Superbike.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and it's like when you sit there and you watch what he's doing, it's pretty impressive. And these guys have kind of separated themselves out here a little bit. Teague Hobbs looks like he's well on his way to his 2nd Supersport podium of the season here, Greg. It's going to do a lot for his confidence. You still see his teammate up there. He's actually been running in the 44s consistently, has Teague Hobbs. The high 44s for the better part of the last 5 laps I've been watching. So it's kind of a little bit of the same program he's on yesterday, where he was running 44s late in the race. He's doing it again now.
Just listening to the tones of that Ducati. Yeah, you can hear those smooth shifts.
Yeah, this is wide open all across the top here. you got to get your downshift up pretty quick, and it's pretty heavy braking into turn 11. You swing out a little bit of a late apex turn. That's where we've seen a couple of our competitors tip off this today. Dave Anthony obviously just now. And see the white flag this next time by as he comes down this famous last 13, 14, and 15 turns here.
You know what I love actually watching him ride? You can tell that Chavi's a little old school because he doesn't need it, but look at the finger covering the clutch lever.
Yeah, it's almost like the old two-stroke guys, you know, like always making sure that they got that clutch covered up. But yeah, Chavi's on his way here and made it look really easy again today. Pace definitely was a little better for like Ty Scott behind him. It was definitely better today. But you can see the gap he has here on Ty Scott. And there's Teague Hobbs and Jake Lewis coming into the picture. And then big gap behind Jake back to Mesa.
And then Anthony Mazziato, who's, like you were saying, Jay's feeling better. Debrino in 7th. David Kolstad, who just set his fastest Sector 1 split back there in 8th place.
Yeah, another local guy, and he's only 2.9 behind Debrino, so we haven't really got to talk about David Kolstad at all. He's another kid that I saw a lot during the winter, Greg, down there at Chuckwalla and riding super well, and a kid that we should see hopefully more of, I think, in our Supersport category. And but Kolstad, another local guy, doing really well. He's got that gap down to 1.5 now going into this last lap. He was almost, well, he was a second and a half quicker than Debrino. So it'll be interesting to see how close those two finish to each other.
We're about a month away from Xavi Flores being able to bring his daughter, Jimenez, over here. Of course, the travel with a brand new baby has got to be something else, but looking to bring the family over in his debut season here in MotoAmerica competition, really putting a stamp on showcasing the talent that he brings from multiple series over the years, Jason. And you can just tell the way he rides, the way he approaches each new racetrack is impressive. See how he's covering that clutch?
Yeah. Well, he's going back all the way to first gear here, so you can hear the 3 downshifts getting down there and rolling through this last little sector. You're going to see a checkered flag when he comes on the front straight.
Here comes Xavi Flores. His freshman season here in MotoAmerica Supersport competition. And every race he's entered, he's won so far, and he holds up 7. It's number 7 in a row with a stoppie across the line, and Xavi Flores gets it done and ties Garrett Gerloff for the most wins in a row in a single season. Ty Scott in 2nd, Teague Hobbs in 3rd. Coming across the line in 4th, a good result for Jake Lewis. And by the way, Teague Hobbs goes fastest lap of his race, a 1:44.5, and he does it on the last lap. So Xavi Flores with a big one. Too easy.
Yeah,
and
too easy
5th place, Mesa just comes across the line. Here's a look at the progression of lap times, and you can see how he really put it down. That 43.596 is a new race lap record for Supersport. And then, Jay, we have Anthony Mazziato ends up 6th, David Kolstad in 7th, ahead of Debrino, who slips to 8th, Michael Gilbert in 9th place, Carl Sotis in 10th, Jared Nassini, CJ LaRoche. And there's a celebration from the team. Doesn't matter if they're working on Superbikes or Supersport. It is one big happy family down there at the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati tent. Of course, Xavi Flores' teammate is Josh Herron this year on the Superbike. So what a run from them after winning the championship in the debut season in Supersport. In the next generation, that's a 955 twin that is controlled by MotoAmerica and also World Supersport. To be competitive, it's a balancing act. But Xavi Flores is pretty happy with his 7th win in a row. We're going to hear from him and get comments from Winner's Circle on the other side of this break.
Well, the record is tied. Xavi Flores matching Garrett Gerloff for most consecutive wins in the Supersport category at 7. The 2 M4X Star Suzukis of Tyler Scott, Teague Hobbs right there on the podium as well. Jake Lewis showing a real turn of speed out there. And we were talking about it, Roger, off mic here, that it just never looked in that race quite like Stefano Mesa was comfortable yet.
No, and getting on that big bike and also probably being hurt as well.
Yeah.
That was a big crash yesterday. That was more than just a little bit of a low side. That was, I mean, that had to shake him up a little bit. And you know, being a B bike, maybe he wasn't as comfortable on it, or, you know, or his confidence could have took a hit yesterday and just wanted to come out here and get some points. But you know, it's damage limitation for him. Still not a top 5, but he just didn't look comfortable like we've seen him.
Yeah, absolutely. And the guy that really was impressive, well, 2 of them there, you know, David Anthony, was really unfortunate to have him have that off because he was looking so good. But same spot, almost looked like almost an identical off to that of Josh Hayes. So he was in pretty august company, I guess you could say. But how about David Kolstedt? Kolstedt on the Faster Than Cancer Foundation Kawasaki from Podium, Washington. Local rider, first race with us here in 2023. Didn't run here last year and got an 8th place finish. But man, he improved on that with a nice 7th place finish for the local guy.
And also his last lap was his best lap of 46.1. And if you go back and look at compared to a lot of the other guys, his lap time's not too far off for a guy that hasn't been doing the whole season. So he's got to be feeling pretty good about that. And for him, just a young rider, you know, wanting to do the whole season, talking about trying to get some funds together to do the rest of the year. And I think today's result, you know, just the confidence and, you know, how much he's learned this weekend can really bode well for him for the rest of the season.
I think so too. He's certainly showing that he's got the pace. Just got to ask this because Michael Hill made the observation again off mic here. We were just chatting during that race. Everybody's got to be really worried about the next round of the championship because we go to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Xavi has Podium there I think it was a World Superbike, and so he doesn't have to worry about learning the track there.
I just think everybody has to worry about him anywhere. You know, and like Laguna too, you know, doesn't have to learn the track for one, but knows the characteristics of it where he doesn't have to waste that first session learning the track and learning where the cracks are and all that. New pavement, he's going to be tough to beat there for sure, and just that momentum he's got. I mean, he's climbing the record books really quick, and we're going to see what happens at Laguna. But you know, all these other guys, they're ready to stop him. They want to step up and going to work hard and see if they can't come out on top at Laguna.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. I think everybody certainly respects him immensely. Everybody likes him personally, and they want to whomp him if they get a chance. And that's what it's all about here. So, but it's easier said than done. And Xavi just really, what a remarkable start to the season here. Big handshake there with Teague Hobbs, and does the same over to Tyler Scott. Tyler put together a nice, solid run. What we're expecting from Tyler here, he would have liked to have been quicker, of course, but still a really strong run. So it's about time for us to hear from the podium here at the Ridge.
Post-race celebrations for Xavi Forés and his crew. Little Louie getting in the mix from the team. So here are the results that we have. It's 5 seconds the margin of victory for Xavi Forés over Ty Scott. Teague Hobbs 3.2 behind him. Then Jake Lewis, Mesa, Mazziato, David Kolstedt. Good result for him. Debrino fading back there in 8th ahead of Michael Gilbert. So all in all a good debut, but talk about debuts for Xavi Forés. Here it is. Garrett Gerloff in 2017 had 7 wins in the same season. All right, if you live by the book, we know that JD Beach won like 7, from one season to another. But Xavi Forés ties Garrett Gerloff for win streak, Hannah.
He's definitely breaking records left and right in his debut season in the Supersport class. Xavi, when you came to our series, what was your expectation? And is this what you had in mind, or is this better?
For sure not. I was hoping to fight for podiums and some victories, but not winning some 7 races in a row. It's been amazing for me, especially discovering new tracks and working with the team and being solid like that. It's not that easy, to be honest, but I feel quite confident on the bike, and this is paying off, especially all the Fridays I'm used to ride and work for the race pace, and this is always a great work for the rest of the weekend. So 7 victories in a row is much more than I was expecting, and I only can thank all the team, Warhorse, HSBK, Ducati, Alpine Stars, KYT, and everyone involved on this project, because last year for this time it was a little bit uncertain without any project for this season, so I'm enjoying again riding bikes.
Now, we're heading to a track after this that you know quite well. It's one of the only on our calendar that you've been to. Could we see this be an 8 or 9 race win streak?
Yeah, I love Laguna. I was doing quite well there when I was in World Superbike, so I expect to stay on the same line as now. But for sure, watching the last year races, Tyler Scott was fast there, was strong there, fighting with Josh Herring. So I expect also Josh is coming there, and yeah, but it's gonna be good fun again.
Sounds like you've done your homework, but congratulations on the race win. Second place today goes to Tyler Scott. Definitely an improvement over yesterday for you, but quite a lonely race there in second. What's going on in your mind when you're out there alone trying to reel in Xavi?
Yeah, no, we made some changes overnight for this morning's warm up. The whole Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki team did a great job dialing the bike in this weekend. And yesterday we had some issues during the race, which was unfortunate. But today the goal was to get a good start and manage the gap to Xavi if we could. And that's what I was trying to do. And then the gap to third behind me, I was trying to manage that as well and not push too hard. And in the end, it was a really great race. The tire lasted pretty good, and I'm happy with the result.
Looking ahead to Laguna, what is your expectation going into that race based on your experience there last year?
Yeah, the Laguna is going to be a long race, so that should be really interesting. Just going to train really hard over the next 2 weeks and try to be consistent there.
Congratulations, Tyler Scott, second place today. And rounding out our podium is his teammate, his second podium of the season and of the weekend, T. Cobbs, third place today. Take us through your race.
Oh man, it was a battle right from the start. I got a decent start off the line and tried to be as aggressive as I could be, but you know, Tyler got away from me. He rode great today, and I beat him yesterday, so I knew he was going to do anything he could to get by me today. Now, he rode a great race. Flores rode a great race. I got to give it up to the whole Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki team. I got an amazing machine under me, and you know, I'm happy as can be just to be here riding a motorcycle.
We heard Greg during the broadcast talking about your fitness and your training throughout the offseason. We've got a long race coming up at Laguna, and it will be your first at Laguna on this motorcycle. What can you do to prepare in the next couple of weeks for that?
Oh man, lots of cardio, lots of stretching, and unfortunately we only got a few weeks to the race, so it's kind of crunch time. So once I get home, it's right back to the gym and right back to the running shoes.
T. Cobbs hoping to keep that momentum going.
Oh yeah, and he is as serious as I've seen a young rider, Jay, and he is looking forward to it. I think, you know, this extended race with the mandatory pit stop and everything, it's quite exciting. So now these riders get to make their way to the podium and start their celebrations, Jason. But boy, all eyes on this guy right here. What he's been able to do is incredible, and we're going to talk more about that on the other side as our coverage will continue from the Ridge.
Well, you heard Hannah kind of alluding to what's going to be unfolding at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And the interesting thing is that's going to be the second of the enduro sprint races that will be unfolding in this championship. Xavi won the first one. No reason with his endurance racing experience not to expect he can't do it again. But that does put a little bit of a different spin on things.
It does put a different spin. You had the pit stop in there. So, I mean, every race, the crew is really important, but even more at that track because your pit stop's going to have to be really well. It's a long race. We already had one of them at Barber, but
yep.
The rain kind of threw that a curveball. It was a lot different race than long race than we was expecting. So
it was disjointed, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so it's not really that everybody has one under their belt because the way the laps and the weather and the tires and all that just made that one even a little bit different. So I think a lot of these guys are still going into this Laguna Seca as the first long race that they have to prepare for and see how it shakes out. You know, but you know, I think they learned something at Barber, but I just think with the weather, it wasn't just an actual first long race where you can see how it played out before and after the pit stops.
And when you're going into something little new like that, obviously having experience in that style of racing is going to be a big plus. And I mean, Xavi's done a ton of endurance racing.
And he does have a lot of experience, knows the pit stops, but also Tyler Scott's did the Daytona 200 a couple times, so he's got some pit stops there. And that crew did some pit stops as well, a lot. I mean, the Vision Wheel M4 team is really known for endurance racing, so they have the experience too, but Xavi's got a lot.
That he does. It's going to be fun to see when we get there, but we're not done here yet. One more time, back to Greg White and Jason Pridmore.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series, and by Geico Motorcycle. Visit geico.com to see how easy covering your ride can be.
Time to celebrate with those not championship, but race-winning trophies. Jay, I like the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki team trying everything they can to get after this guy. Still, even with the results that we've seen, which are obviously pretty big margin of victory, still like the way that this whole thing is balanced. But Hannah still on the move down there. What you got, Hannah?
Stefano Mesa, after a big off yesterday, was able to salvage some points in today's race. Stefano, how are you feeling on that bike, and are you happy with this performance and at least leaving here with some points in hand?
Yeah, definitely feeling pretty sore from yesterday. It was pretty fast get off, but my hat's off to the team for giving me a bike after destroying the A bike. You know, they worked pretty hard to get this bike going. They gave me a solid bike. We gave what we could in the first beginning of the race. You know, we were fighting for it and we tried and kept it there, but just started feeling a little bit off, and my brakes started fading there a little bit. So decided to back off, bring it home in one piece, and Laguna Seca's in 2 weeks, so we're gonna go out there swinging again and hopefully get a victory.
Speaking of Laguna, how do you like that track, and how do you think that this bike will fare there with the depth of talent in the field?
Yeah, I think Laguna might fit the bike a little bit better than here. I think we'll be a little bit more up to pace faster and not risking ourselves so much. But it's going to be new pavement, so it's going to be different for all of us. It's going to be something new for all of us. So it's definitely going to be fun, you know. And the extended race is going to bring some heat into the whole situation. So I'm excited for it.
Sounds like a plan. Stefano Mesa looking to hopefully maintain the points here.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very interesting with the new pavement at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca as to what we show up and what's going to happen with tire wear and all that stuff, because we're not really sure at this point how detailed Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca got in terms of the asphalt they laid down, because we know at RoadAmerica they had a latex polymer modifier in there, and that really helped tire wear for a brand new track.
Yeah, no question. And the teams got to go to RoadAmerica prior to at least see the track, and then it had some car events there and things. So that track was almost felt like it was a little bit more bedded in, even though it was brand new. Let's get some race 2 highlights here. A little bit like we saw yesterday. Xavi Flores, Ty Scott got up alongside of him briefly. You see Teague Hobbs trying to go around the outside. He slots himself into third, just ahead of Josh Hayes, who we did find out later did have that 5-second penalty, but that wouldn't end up mattering, as he does slide up underneath Teague Hobbs in this particular corner, but it was all to no avail, as the number 4 does something we don't see done very often. He tipped off there in turn 11. Jake Lewis was on the move. He goes past Mason. You can see Dave Anthony does the exact same thing as they go into turn 13. And then Dave Anthony does the exact same thing Josh Hayes does. Throws away a top 5 finish in what would be his debut to this season in Supersport. See Ty Scott go through the shot. This is his teammate Teague Hobbs. Ended up pulling away pretty good from Jake Lewis at the end to solidify that 3rd place. But it was all this guy again at the front, Greg. Set a new lap record here at the Ridge. Really a perfect weekend from the time he loaded that bike on the trailer, off the trailer rather, and was just dominant all the way through. 7 in a row.
7 in a row. What does that do to the standings? Well, if you can add 25 times 7, this is what you're going to get.
25 times 8.
Times 8, yeah.
I'll help you out there. We had a 50-pointer at Barber.
That's right.
And we'll have another 50-pointer, I think, isn't it? Is that they do double points at Laguna as well,
double
right?
points at Laguna, so that's why we have 200 points. And you can see Mesa right now, Jay, the biggest thing is the margin. Okay, so that's 3 sprint race totals.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, he's got a 3-race lead essentially, doesn't he? Yes.
Yeah. So for Mesa, you know, if we look at it and we're thinking to ourselves, okay, if for some reason Xavi has an issue because we only have 1 race at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca that's worth 50 points, if he could win that, Xavi Flores, all of a sudden now we have 26 points. And so there's a lot of scenarios left to play out, but boy, Xavi Flores is going to be very difficult to beat at our next race because he loves the place. He's got a lot of confidence there as well.
He's excited to be there, and it's going to take a mistake from either him or his team, I think, for that points gap to get any different. But like you say, with 50 points on tap for winning at Laguna Seca, it could get back down to 26 if there was a problem. But he loves Laguna Seca. I remember him going very well, like he said, at that place in World Superbike as well. And that's what these other riders are dealing with. It's the experience levels. You look at Xavi Flores and where he's been and what he's done, and you look at the kid in second, Ty Scott, and the amount of experience there is so vast. Ty Scott went really well there last year, and I remember that when he was up there battling and with Heron. But again, it's a longer race. There's a lot of things that can play out there, and Mesa is so strong as well. So you know, it'll be interesting to see when we get to Laguna, the track surface, as you say, and how it affects these riders individually.
Yeah, and if you're curious to find out, like, what is an extended race, well, when we get to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, this is it. So it's basically going to be a 38-lap race. Double points are paid. It's going to be a flag-to-flag race, but there is a mandatory pit stop. It's our second of 2 extended races on the season. And Jason, this race can be won or lost in the pits.
It definitely can, and it's going to be a little bit of a long pit as well there. But you come off of turn 10, you go down into turn 11, as you'll see here in our track map, and then that pit lane doesn't end until you come out of turn 2. So fast turn 1 on these bikes is going to be wide open up over the top of that. Turn 2, 3 and 4 are going to be flat. Then obviously we go up out of turn 6 up a big steep hill to the famous corkscrew through Rainy Corner. So hoping to see Wayne there at that track as well. Down into turn 11 where we've seen so many great overtakes on last laps leading to the start finish line. So Laguna, we don't have to talk about it. Everybody knows
It's
about
legendary.
what an amazing place it is.
Absolutely.
And now it's going to be repaved. I mean, I can't imagine how much better it's going to be.
I think the thing to think about, Jason, too, is in terms of Xavi Forés and the Ducati V2, what we do know about that motorcycle is it is the easiest of all the bikes on the rear tire. And so the big question mark really becomes, what's the surface going to be like? I'm sure that Dunlop has already done their homework, and they're in communication with the track, and they probably got molds of the surface and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of potential there to really see some issues with tires, and it's going to be interesting to see the tire combination that Dunlop ends up bringing to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
Yeah, no question, because at Road America, it was really the first time I've ever been to a completely repaved track where we didn't have any problems. We had no problems. The speeds were fast, and we could only hope that it's going to be the same thing at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, and we definitely look forward to that and what's going to happen in that extended race. And that is less than 2 weeks away as we're going to get things going. Well, Xavi Forés keeps resetting the history books. Teague Hobbs gets his first 2 podiums in Supersport, and it's been great stories all the way through. For Hannah Lopa and Jason Pridmore, I'm Greg White. Thanks for checking out Supersport, MotoAmerica from the Ridge Motorsports Park. We'll see you next time.